Welcome back to MTG Friends. I'm Ryan. Let's do a Commander deck tech. We're gonna do the pre-constructed Leinore Autumn Sovereign. This is out of the Innistrad Midnight Hunt. This is one of the two that are extra spicy. If you want to check out Vilheld, that is in the link above. All right, Leinore Autumn Sovereign. It's a 4-drop human noble. We have really ripped this one apart and gone a whole different direction. All right, legendary creature, human noble. Coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on up to one target creature you control. Then, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. There's all sorts of ways you could take that. The Precon has a lot of human stuff going on. We actually ripped out all of that synergy, and we're going for the doubling season, double +1/+1 counter stuff. So let's look at the packages before we get started. As usual, subscribe, hit the like button. Yes, thank you. All right, moving on. All right, so let's check out what we concocted here. All right, we got the draw mechanic. Not a bunch of pieces in draw, but we got a fair amount. The land package, the counters package, as you can see, it is very robust. Robust indeed. And then also we have a few tutoring, spells, ramp, removal, and oh yeah, we got the combo, oldie but goodie. It's not even an old one, but it's a gross one. And a few protection pieces, the ones you would expect to see in Selesnya in white, green, white, whatever. All right, so let's jump in. We'll start with the draw. Boom, boom, in the room. All right, Esper Sentinel. This is a new one out of Modern Horizons 2. It is a fabulous, fabulous card. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, don't forget to do this. I have been in play groups multiple times where I just totally space that it's an opponent. So just make sure you keep track of this. Draw a card unless that player pays X. Gonna pay it. You know the Ristic Study in white. All right, let's move on. Garruk's Uprising. We're gonna have a few bombs here that are bigger than 3. So we got some 4 or greater. You draw a card. Creatures, more importantly, have trample. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. That is fabuloso. Fabuloso. All right, more draw. Draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible end of turn at instant speed, which is nice. Which is nice indeed. And most likely we're going to be getting multiple cards out of this one. Life Crafter's Bestiaire. This was actually in the Precon. I actually almost took it out, but it's just squeaked in there. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Whenever you cast a creature spell, which we'll be doing a lot of, you may pay green if you do draw a card. Yes, we'll keep it. Sylvan Library. You see this in a lot of our green-based decks. At the beginning of your draw step, you can draw 2, so you do a total of 3. You get the 1 that's your normal draw, and then you can pay 4 life for the other 2. Yes, indeedly do. Be careful, since we're not in a life gain per se deck here, although there is some life gain. Just be careful how often you do that 3-card pay the 8 life. That can really suck it down, and you can get screwed early on, especially if you drop Sylvan Library early in the game. All right, great. Henge, we're going to have some large creatures as long as we don't have too many board wipes. Spell cost X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So it just gets smaller and smaller, which is very nice. On its face, 7 green is ridiculous, but we're going to have creatures out there that are 5, 6, 7 power. So add 2 green, you gain 2 life. And then, of course, if that wasn't enough, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. So this just does so many things. Chord of Calling, we know what this is. We can go tutor up. Oh, we're in tutors. We can go tutor up with the convoke cost as well for a creature mana cost X or less. I mean, pretty no-brainer on that one. Eladamri's Call, we can go search our library for a creature card, put it in your hand, shuffle the library, and you got to reveal it. Enlightened Tutor, Reveal artifact enchantment after you tutor, put it on top of your library. Great because it's instant speed. Worldly Tutor, same thing for creatures. Search your library, grab a creature card, put it on top of your library. Boom. All right, Aura Shards. This is great, great in our colors. Whenever a creature comes into play under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Very, very efficient in, of course, Commander, which is what we're talking about, y'all. What we're talking about. And let's go with the original listing. All right, it doesn't even look different. I just like the set. I like the set symbol on that one. Beast Within comes in the Precon. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. So not in the green colors, which is why this is so fancy schmancy. Force of Vigor. This is a 4-drop. Costs nothing if we exile a green card from your hand rather than pay its mana cost if it's not your turn. Destroy up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Loving it. Love that card. Generous Gift. Another removal spell. Off color. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature. Alright, we got a little bit more removal. Steelbane Hydra enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. And for 3, remove a 1/1 counter from Steelbane Hydra, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Loving it, loving it. Plus it has the +1/+1 counter synergy going on. Alright, Swords of Plowshare. I mean, yeah, in a pinch. Exile target creature, and they get life for it. Much preferred to the other, where they get an extra land. That one's just, I just think that one's inferior to Swords to Plowshares. I just do. And Wrath of God, of course. Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. All right, we got our combo, which is the Heliod Sun Crown Walking Ballista combo. If you've seen our other episodes, you know what this combo is. We'll go through it very briefly. You got Walking Ballista out there. And then you have Heliod. And as long as you have 2 available lands to tap, one of them being a plains, you can go Infinite, which is basically you -1 counter on the Heliod. Heliod Sun Crown triggers, which gets a +1 counter on the Heliod. Yeah. All right, you get it, right? You're familiar with that combo. All right, we are going into protection. I really don't like that artwork. I really like this artwork better. All right, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So everything's groovy as long as everything doesn't get exiled. Shalai, Voice of Plenty. Did I say that right? Shalai? Who knows? Flying, you have planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control have hexproof. We like that. And for 6, we can put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Wow. On each creature. That's pretty great. All right, the uber awesome Teferi protection. Phase out all your stuff. You can't lose the game, etc., etc., etc. And then they phase back in during an untapped step. I mean, yeah, we're definitely going to put this. We tend to put this in almost all white decks. It's just that powerful. All right, we're going to blast through the lands real quick. It is really what you would expect to see in our colors. So this is the one that if you have 2 or more opponents, command tower, I mean, just all the things you would expect to see. Fabled Passage, a good amount of force. This one, is this in the Precon? I don't think this is in the Precon. No, it's not. All right, for 4, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. I mean, holy shnikes, yes, we're putting that in a +1/+1 counter deck. Karn's Bastion to proliferate. In case for some reason you're relatively new and you don't know what that is, proliferate. Choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. So you choose what gets the additional +1/+1 counters. All right, 11 planes in there. So we got a good amount of basic lands in here. So somebody drops a Blood Moon on you, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. All right, Prismatic Vista to go fetch up if we need a specific color, but we should be all right. Rogue's Passage to give one of our creatures unblockable for the turn. All right, we got our shock lands in our color. We got the fetch land in our color. Go grab a land, cost you 1 life. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, great out of Modern Horizons 2. Each land is a forest in addition to its other land type. So powerful. So powerful. Especially if you're running a deck that's not this one, that has forest walk creatures. Holy moly, that's great. Great. Elf decks. All right, we got ramp, all the stuff you'd expect to see. Still, Avacyn, Pilgrim. Yeah. Cultivate to go grab extra cards. Most of these are staples. Fyndhorn Elves, Mana Dork. This one gives our +1/+1 counter shenanigans because you can evolve it and then put a 1/1 counter on this creature when you evolve it. If that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature. Yeah, okay. So let's actually read it. And I'm not even going to edit this out. Evolve. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a 1/1 counter on it. And then you can tap it for its Mana Dork stuff. Add 1 green for each 1/1 counter on Gyre Sage. So this thing can get real powerful real quick. Hamza, Guardian of Arachin for 6. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. So you got the Great Henge out, and this is out, and you're off to the races, y'all. All right, Knight of the Wild Orchid for 2/2 for a striker, and most importantly, when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a plains card, put it on the battlefield. You got it. Mana Dork. Our Signet in our colors. Sky Shroud, so we can go grab 2 force cards, which means you can grab a shock, whatever. It doesn't have to be a basic, and they come onto the battlefield untapped. Smothering Tithe, you get a continue last, so you're going to pay 2. If they don't, you create a treasure artifact token. Soul Ring, 3 visits to go grab a forest and put it in untapped. All right, we're in the counters action. We are running, I believe, just 1 Planeswalkers, and that is Ajani, Valiant Protector. This is the one I like, but you could certainly put in a different Ajani in here if you're feeling extra froggy. This one I like because it's +2 is put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 target creature. Its others are all right. +1 reveal cards from the top of your library until the reveal a creature card. Put the card into your hand, and the rest on the bottom. So that one's if you're just fetching for creatures. And its ultimate, I doubt you're going to hit its ultimate, but if you do, put X 1/1 counters on target creature where X is your life total. That creature gains trample. I mean, it does have an uptick of +2. So, I mean, I guess in theory you could get there. And that is a game winner for surezies, y'all. Archangel of Thune for 5. Flying lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. There's just enough life gain in here that this is useful. There's not a ton of pieces of life gain, but I mean, the Henge has it. Heliod has it. That might be the only 2. There might be a couple others. We will see. You would think I'd remember, but hey, I'm on the spot, man. We're doing it live. Avenger of Zendikar, 6/7 drop, 5/5. When it comes onto the battlefield, it does crazy janky crap. Create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. Holy shnikes. And then landfall. All those things get +1/+1. That is just ridiculous. Ridiculous, especially in this doubling season type deck. Branching Evolution. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, twice that many gets put on instead. Yeah, buddy. It's the baby doubling season. Cazur, Ruthless Stalker. We're not partnering this thing up because we don't need to. And I think the partner might be in the wrong colors. Don't hold me to that. I don't remember. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. I mean, yes, thank you very much. Champion of Lambholt. You get this thing out early, and it's going to be a target on its back for your opponents. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, put a 1/1 counter on Champion of Lambholt. And it's extra spicy stuff where creatures with power less than Champion can't block creatures you control. So not just Lambholt, but all your creatures. That's right. Citadel Siege. All right, we of course want this for its cons. As it enters, create or choose con or dragons. We're choosing cons. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Collective Effort. Alright, you can escalate, which is tap an untapped creature you control. Pay this cost for each mode chosen. So you can tap 3 and do all 3. Yeah, buddy. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Destroy target enchantment. Yes, indeed. And put a 1/1 counter on each creature target player controls. Oh, I told you we were going to be dealing with some serious counteraction. Speaking of serious counteraction, this is a real sleeper that is fabuloso out of Core 2021. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on that creature instead. Oh! And then it's got this extra, oh, I knew there was more than a couple of life gain here. Whenever Conclave Mentor dives, you gain life equal to its power. Its power is great in the power hour. Doubling season, I mean, yes. Yes, of course. If an effect would put one or more tokens, yeah, I don't even know if we're running any tokens. If an effect would place one or more counters on a permanent you control, it puts twice that many. Yes, yes, indeed. I mean, I suppose if you like did Beast Within to one of your own and then created 2 tokens instead, I mean, something like that. How does Beast Within only do your opponents? You know what? I can't even remember. I'll have to check that after this episode. Emiel the Blessed for 4. This one is mainly in here because of its +1/+1 counter action, but in a pinch we can use its other mechanics. For 3, exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. I mean, it's not great in a counter acting kind of deck, but in a pinch we can keep one of our great utility creatures from getting whack-a-mole and ending up in the graveyard. But more importantly, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 in either color. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on it. If it's unicorn, and obviously the unicorn part doesn't matter. Evolution Sage. Alright, whenever land enters battlefield, proliferate. Boom. Make all of our counters go up, up, up. Through the roof, y'all. Felidar Retreat. Oh, there's some creating 2/2 white cat beast creature tokens for the other part of the doubling season. But more importantly, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn, and that's with the landfall mechanic. Forgotten Ancients 4/03. Whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on Forgotten Ancient at the beginning of your upkeep. You may move any number of 1/1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. This really starts synergizing with the doubling up of counters. Hangerback Walker XX. Hangerback Walker enters battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. Yeah, fine and dandy. Yeah, so at minimum we'll have 1, but hopefully we have more than 1 when it enters. When Hangerback dies, put a 1/1 color stop to artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield or each 1/1 counter on Hangerback Walker. Alright, 1 tap, put a 1/1 counter on Hangerback Walker. That's the coolest part of this whole deck, our whole card, I think, is just continually making it bigger and bigger. And then when we need to make it fire off, we can. Hardened Scales. Doubling that shizzle up, y'all. Oh, another sleeper. If ever you were wondering how to make a creature gigantic, this is it. Enchant creature. When Hydra Growth enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on an enchanted creature at the beginning of your upkeep. Double the number of 1/1 counters on double the number of 1/1 counters on enchanted creature. Now I remember drafting and like this was a go-to card because this thing won you games. If they couldn't remove that creature, game over most likely. That was a fun deck to draft in. Theros Beyond Death. Didn't do great in terms of sales, I don't think. Or was it Ikoria? I can't remember. Colonian Hydra. This one's great, folks. 5-drop trample. Love that it has trample. Enters battlefield with 4 1/1 counters on it. Whenever it attacks, double that. Double. Holy Christmas. You got doubling season or some other doubling season effect out there? This thing is ridiculous. This thing also wins games. Let's look at the original. What's the original printing? 2014. There we go. Yeah, it looks exactly the same. Loyal Guardian. Yay. So loyal. Rhino. Oh, just the artwork's just so So happy and love-filled. Trample Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Hopefully you have your commander out. Then that does some janky shizzle. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. This is in the mono white deck as of this recording, and standard that is doing well. Yeah, this thing has been doing well actually for anything that has Luminarch Aspirant +1 counter action going on. It's a great card. I think it's just got some staying power in this kind of a deck. Mana Gorger. Oh, just the name of that is so awesome. Mana Gorger. Trample 1/1 whenever player casts a spell, put a 1/1 counter on Mana Gorger Hydra. This thing is excellent early on. Super excellent early on. Mikaeus the Lunarch, our Mikaeus in white. X white. Mikaeus Lunar enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. Put a 1/1 counter on Mikaeus if you tap it. Remove a 1/1 counter from Mikaeus, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. I mean, yeah, we're definitely running this in a doubling season deck for surezies. Primal Vigor. Vigor. Yep, for 5. If one or more tokens would be put onto the battlefield, twice that many. Yes. If one or more 1/1 counters would be placed on creature, twice that many are placed on a creature. I mean, there you go. We know what it does. We know why it's in here. We're moving on. Primeval Bounty. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. All right, so we definitely have a bunch of stuff that creates tokens. I totally spaced that. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life. More life gain. See? It's as though I may know why I'm putting cards into these decks and not just randomly doing it. Ah, yes, indeed. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I typically put in things that synergize together. Primeval Protector. Its giant mana cost gets reduced. Primeval Protector costs 1 less to cast for each creature your opponent controls. Whenever Primeval Protector enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. It becomes giant, costs less, and you get to put 1/1 counters on stuff. Hey, that might work really well in a, I don't know, doubling season type deck, especially with this commander. Primordial Hydra. I do have a special place in my heart for Hydras, by the way. If you haven't seen the Hydra episode I did on the awesomest Maximus Hydras we got going on. Primordial Hydra enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number. Doubling season. Doubling fun. All right, Primordial Hydra has trample as long as it has 10. Folks, if you have 10 on this thing, you're well on your way to winning the game. Unless they do a board wipe on your ass. Sword of Truth and Justice. Equipped creature gets +2 and has protection for white and from blue, so blue can't bounce you. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. Then, most importantly, proliferate. Oceloth. This works for any kind of deck you got where you're doing 1/1 counters. When a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Oceloth. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Oceloth has counter on it, you may remove all counters from the Oceloth onto target creature. So you choose a creature, not all the creatures or whatever, and you put them on there, and then you have a giant creature you're swinging with. Vigor. If it wasn't bad enough for your opponent, now we're going to drop Vigor on there. Oh, yeah, see us. That's a really weird way to say but I did it, and we're going to move on. All right, trample. If damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage. And then you put 1/1 counters on it instead. Oh, dude, that's ridiculous. This card is ridiculous. I run this in, like, so many green decks just because it is ridiculoso. When Vigor is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. So that is even better because they can't snake it and reanimate it. Foreign Clecks, dude, this thing is great. If you don't have one, you should pick one up. Come to think of it, I got secret layers of this one and it still hasn't come. How many months has it been? Oh man. Guys, MTG, get your acts together. All right, if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each instead, which is great. But even funnier is if an opponent would put one or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half that many of its kind. I mean, that's awesome. That's some hate right there. This is a hateful, hateful card. All right, brings us full circle. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this upgrade, with this shifting around what the Precon was. I mean, frankly, the Precon was okay. Nothing like the Wilheld deck, the zombie deck. I mean, that one was really out of the gate great. So yeah, check it out. Check out the other ones. Check out our other episodes. Thanks for your support. Hopefully you're getting some groovy stuff out of this. Comment, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. If you made it all the way to the end here, put something funny in the comments about, oh, I made it all the way to the end and I kept my pants on the whole time. I mean, but only if that was true. I mean, because you could have taken your pants off halfway through this episode and then don't lie about it. I mean, yeah. I'm going to stop now. All right. Cheers.